Alright, Part 1, Story 10, The Fairest Creature of Creation. That's what this story is called. Of course, it has one big, huge page of all things. And it looks like a movie actress was the model for this. It's by Russell Harlan. And it's very beautiful oil. I think it's oil. The original. But, oh, it looks like oil. I mean, the way the paintbrush strokes are. Okay, here's what we look. And looking at it through this camera, it looks a little back. It looks backwards, and it looks a little off to me when it's backwards. But you gotta think, back then, they didn't have these techniques we have, art-wise. Okay, Part 1, the Story 10, The Fairest Creature of Creation. And then down at the bottom, besides it say, painting by Russell Harlan. Caption is, like a great master artist, God put the finishing touches on creation by making a woman, the world's first mother, the most lovely of all his creatures, whom Adam named Eve. That's what it says. Okay. Story 10. Fairest Creature of Creation. As Adam watched the animals basking in the warm sunshine or playing happily in the meadow, he soon noticed that they were in pairs. Every animal had a mate. Alongside the majestic lions stroked a sleek and slender lioness. Behind the antlered stag moved a graceful doe. With a powerful bull was a gentle cow. Near the tiger was a tigress. Close by the bear was a she-bear. Not far off, Mr. Rabbit was with Mrs. Rabbit, and so on. It was with the giraffes, the zebras, the rhinos, the antelopes, the possums, even though it says opossum, and I'm Southern, the possums and the squirrels. Only Adam was alone. Truly, the animals were as friendly as they could be. When he called to them, they stopped and looked at him with their great big wonderful wondering eyes, but they couldn't say a single word in return. The little dog seemed to understand his best, and it was clear that he wanted to speak ever so badly, but all he could do is wiggle and jump about and bark and wag his tail. Many times Adam must have wondered why there were no mate for him. Perhaps he began to search for one. Perhaps out, and then we turn the page, of the ache of his heart, he called and he called, hoping for someone like himself might hear his voice and answer. Perhaps he half expected to see some beautiful creature come gliding through the forest towards him to be his special friend and companion. But no one came. As he laid upon the grass thinking of things, his sense of loneliness priest. The earth was beautiful, the animals so friendly and amusing, but there was nobody for him to talk to, nobody of whom he could share his thoughts, nobody, that is, save God. Suddenly, Adam felt very sleepy. That was strange, he thought. He had never felt like that before, like this before. What could What could be happening? He tried to keep awake, but it was no use. Moment by moment, he became sleepier and sleepier until at last he couldn't keep his eyes open no longer. The earth, the flowers, the trees, the animals all faded away and were forgotten in his as he fell into a deep slumber. Wonder what's happening. Now God drew near him again, as near as he had been a little while before, when he breathed into the nostrils the breath of life. With one swift touch of his gentle, creative hands, he removed a real rib from a sleeping form before him, closing up the wound with infinite skill. Ooh. So he didn't like totally rip the the bone out. He just stuck his hand in there and pulled it out. I mean, that's just my idea. A rib, which the Lord had taken from a man, made a woman. Strange thing for God to do. If he could make the sun, the moon, the stars by saying, "Let there be lights in the firmaments of heaven," if he could make an animal by saying, "Let the earth bring forth a living creature," next page, after his kind, why did he say, let there be a woman"? And why, after making Adam the most marvelous creature in his wonderful new world, did he take a rib from his perfect body and make him a life companion? Yeah, good question. There must have been a good reason why God acted thus, and I like to think it was because he wanted Adam to know that his wife was truly part of him, so that he would ever treat her as if he would himself. The Bible tells us that God made Eve to be a helpmate for him, and which our word wait, a helpmeet for him. That's meat, meet, from which our word helpmate comes. And what a lovely thought it was. She would stand by his side always, helping him, working with him, planning with him, and sharing life's joys with him. Oh, I missed it. But, but let us watch God at work again. Of Adam's rib were we are told he built a woman, even as he had formed man out of the dust of the ground. So now, with an infinite wisdom and skill, he fashioned the one who was to become the mother of the whole human race. How perfectly he molded the features of her lovely face. How gracefully he arranged her long flowing hair, which with loving thought he placed in her mind and heart all the tenderness, all the gentleness, all the sweetness, all the endless store of love he wanted every mother to have. In the less time than it takes to tell, there stood before him the fairest creature of all creation, her eyes sparkling with the joy of life, a tender smile her a tender smile giving her pretty face a beauty beyond compare. And now, slowly and gracefully, she takes her first few steps as God brings her in unto the man. And then down at the bottom, illustration of Adam. And that was, oh, we still got more. Wonderfully, she looked down at the sleeping figure before her. Who can this be? Dreaming perhaps of a companion he hopes to meet someday, somehow, in this wonderful world God has given him. Adam stirs and opens his eyes. Oh, wonder of wonders! There before him stood someone more beautiful than he had dared to hope for, or being so chose, a being so choi, chose, choose, a being so choice, so noble, so altogether lovely that he could scarcely believe that she was real. Looking looking into her bright, kindly, understanding eyes, he knew at once that this was his mate. This is his mate, a dear companion for whom he had been longing. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. I shall call, she shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. In it is love at first sight. Slightly, both seem to know that they belong to each other. Eagerly they link hands and walk away together. As king and queen of glorious new earth, they wander through the flower filled fields. That's tongue tied. Over the tree strutted hills, down by the wave-swept shore, exploring the wonders of God's creation and marveling at the glory of his power. Meanwhile, not far away, slightly watching over them in tender love, smiling at, smiling at, wait, sorry, my mouse is getting that. Blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, not far away, silently watching over them in tender love and smiling at their perfect happiness, is God Himself, His joy complete in theirs. And that's the end of part one. And we got now part two, but we do have an illustration. There it is. Adam and Eve. You don't say who drew it, but it's interesting. Alright, now we're done with part one.